Laurel, and today what I'm going to be doing is answering advice questions that have been submitted. These are all relationship questions, so relationship, dating, things like that, and that's what we'll be focusing on. Okay, so the first question comes from Pensive in Pennsylvania, and the question is, what is the best way to move on from a guy? So what I think is important here is closure, full closure. And one of the best ways to do that is to focus not just on the negatives, but also on the positives. By recognizing good things that happen, things you liked about him, you can really sort of be able to move on, put it in perspective, put it in the rearview mirror. Also, one of the best ways to move on is, of course, to just move on and be with someone else. Try something out, keep it light, and just try to sort of get yourself out of that period of time in which you're really in a solid relationship. Okay, the next question comes from Dazed and Confused in Delaware. The question is, the guy that I've been talking to, we are friends with benefits, but I'm not sure if it's turning into something more. We talk every day and sometimes have a naughty talk or two, but he doesn't live near me. Should I continue to just go with the flow? What I would say here about this is it's really a question of what do you want from this relationship, right? And first things first, establishing that with yourself. So do you want something more than friends with benefits? Are you comfortable just going with the flow? If you don't change something, if you just set it, the other party is going to sort of assume that you're comfortable with how things are. So if you don't want to change it up, then just keep doing what you're doing. But if you do find that maybe you want to turn it in to something more than just talking to him, just hooking up, and you really want to maybe start dating and turn into a relationship, sometimes the best thing to do is to put it out in the open and tell him. Other things you could do is just sort of drop a hint. The next time you're sort of, hanging out, maybe about to hook up or something, be like, hey, I really feel like maybe we should slow this down a little bit. There's some things I'm not comfortable with, and just be honest, and if he doesn't respect that, then really ask yourself, am I okay with just keeping it at this level, or do I need to just withdraw from the relationship altogether? Okay, our next question, let's see, comes from Subconscious in South Carolina. The question is, if you're pretty sure a guy likes you, but he's not flirting with you, how do you get him to flirt with you? This is a good question. I'm going to assume that flirting is the goal here as opposed to entering into a relationship. Kind of start flirting with him, I'd say, at the most basic level, right? Drop hints, be flirtatious, be everything. If he's not reciprocating, ask yourself if that's because of his personality. Maybe he's just shy. Be honest, maybe he's not into you. But if he does like you and he's not reciprocating, maybe he's just uncomfortable with it. Maybe he's just a shy guy. If not, and you see him being flirtatious, you see him being outgoing, but he's not that way with you, I'd be concerned that your read was off and he doesn't actually like you. Okay, next question comes from Hot and Bothered in Honolulu, and the question is, how do you tell a girl she's just a booty call? Well, qualms aside of having a girl be just a booty call, what I'd say here is if you don't want to verbally just tell her, right? How do you tell her? Very nicely. Aside from that, I would say just be honest, and if you don't want to indicate it, just be physical and, maybe say something to her about, I really like where things are at. That's kind of girl code for he doesn't want to date me, and she'll get it. If she doesn't, ask yourself again, is it worth it to keep hooking up with her, or do I really just want to evacuate the relationship? Okay, next question comes from Lonely in Louisiana, and the question is, when is it appropriate for the girl to make the first move? Is it okay all the time or only in certain situations? Girl, it's okay all the time. One of the biggest pet peeves I think guys have is, oh my God, they're supposed to initiate everything, they're supposed to do everything, right? Maybe they just want to know you like them and they just want you to tell them yourself. The first move doesn't have to be, asking him out or telling him you like him. It can be something just like, hey, let's grab coffee sometime, right? That's not a date, so it's not going to be automatically in that sort of zone of being a date, but he will be like, okay, great. If he likes you as a friend, he's going to get coffee with you. At coffee, maybe it goes really well. Maybe, there's something there and then it escalates. If not, maybe you're just friends and it's not like you asked him out. It's not like you were embarrassed. You just got coffee. Okay. Next question is, how do you know if you accidentally put a guy in the friend zone, and how do I get him out of it? Okay, I assume this question comes from a place of liking a guy, but acting towards him in a way that he sort of assumed that he was in the friend zone and didn't really want to pursue anything more with you. How do I get him out of it? Again, being flirtatious. Ask him on a date, not a real date. Ask him to grab coffee. Ask him to do something with you. Keep it super low key. Yeah, and if you accidentally put him in the friend zone and then you start flirting with him, hanging out with him, guys aren't clueless. They're probably gonna get it. If he really, really doesn't, and you really just want to tell him, hey, I'm really glad we're friends, but to be honest, like, I'm kind of into you. Like, it sounds mortifying. It is a little mortifying. There's probably a smoother way to do it, but if all else fails, nothing wrong with just telling it like it is. Okay, next question comes from Sad in Seattle. I've been dating this girl for years, and I think it's kind of headed towards the end. I think she knows it's coming, but she doesn't want to admit it. I have two questions. A, how do I break the news to her so she'll actually speak with me post-relationship? And B, what's the statute of limitations on asking her cute friend Sally out? Okay, first of all, how do I break the news to her so she'll actually speak with me post-relationship? One of my biggest pet peeves is people thinking, man, I broke up with her and she doesn't want to be friends the next day. She needs time, man. And one of the best ways to do that is to just sort of establish it from the get-go. When you do break up with her, first of all, be as nice as possible. Second of all, make it a clean break. Say, maybe we do just want to take a little bit of time off for a couple weeks, a month, and I really, really, really value your friendship and I really want to be friends with you. Maybe you were friends before you started dating and mentioned that, you definitely want to keep that with her and you really, really value her. Then follow through. Text her, call her. Don't do it all the time as if you're in a relationship, but definitely every few days, maybe once a week, just drop her a text. Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? It's okay to talk explicitly about breaking up. It's okay to be like, hey, how have you been since we broke up? Like, there's nothing wrong with just explicitly saying that. Also, again, seriously, give time. If she doesn't want to talk to you for a little bit, respect that. Be like, okay, is it possible that in a month or two we can come back together and really try and get our friendship back because I really value you? And she'll probably be like, yeah, absolutely. And really respect that you're setting that limit. Okay, part B, what's the statute of limitations on asking her cute friend Sally out? Okay, so this has to do with a lot of factors. Girl code, though not bro code, is just as complicated, I would say. And a lot of things are coming into play here. One of those things is how close are Sally and the girl you've been dating. If they're best friends, the statute of limitation is probably the rest of her life until she doesn't value the friendship anymore. If they're kind of acquaintances and they sort of know each other, not really a statute of limitations at all. You can kind of just go for it. But if it's somewhere in the middle, maybe they're friends, but they haven't really, they're not necessarily like best friends. They hang out sometimes. You can kind of pursue it a little bit, start flirting with her, see what the reaction is. I really think the best thing to do in this situation is just to be totally honest and say, listen, I know I was dating your friend, but I'm also kind of crushing on you. How do you feel about that? To be honest, she's probably going to go tell her friend that you said that, so I would prepare for that when you're thinking about what to do. But, at the end of the day, it's all about you and how comfortable you feel with that. And it's all about the friend as well and how comfortable she feels with, potentially bringing her friendship into question in the pursuit of dating you. And, insofar as giving an actual straight answer to that, I would say definitely a few months. After a year, probably everything is pretty okay unless they're really best friends, but you definitely want to wait like 3 or 4 months for sure before even like broaching that if they're reasonably good friends. If they don't really know each other but they kind of hang out in the same circumstances, again, whenever you really want to. Okay, we have time for one more question, potentially 2 depending. And the question is from Insecure in Illinois, and the question is, my boyfriend told me I'm fat during sex. What should I do? Pretty easy question, pretty easy answer, dump his ass. If there's a longer answer to be said, maybe it's some obscure kink, maybe he gets off on insulting women when having sex with them. I'm not sure how I'd feel about that, but you could inquire as to that. Obviously, if it's safe, sane, and consensual, you can always feel free to, engage in whatever you want to while being intimate. But if it was just sort of out of the blue, I would ask about it. If he's been this before, if he's maybe told you you're exceeding your fat, if he's made sort of deprecating comments, this is a lot of signs of an abusive relationship. And I'd really prepare yourself to break up with him immediately, really want to end it. Okay, I think we will have time for one more. The question is, what is the best way to get out of the friend zone? I feel like maybe we asked this question before or it came up in another iteration, but you can't have too many questions about the friend zone. So again, flirt. Flirt your heart out. Talk to him. Pull him aside. Spend time with him. Be flirtatious. Make gestures. Text him. Call him. Make it clear that you're into him. Don't be needy. Don't be annoying. Don't do it all the time, but definitely be flirtatious. If he's an outgoing person, he's a flirtatious kind of person, he just doesn't reciprocate, maybe he's not into you. If he does kind of reciprocate and you're just worried that you're in the friend zone with him forever, maybe just talk to him about it. There's a time and a place for being like, hey, I love that we're friends. To be perfectly honest, I kind of have a crush on you. How do you feel about it? And he should definitely ask you. Okay, I think we're about done, but I'm just checking because I think a question has just come in. Okay, the question is, how much time should elapse before a person says I love you and ruins everything? The first thing I would call attention to here is saying that you're going to ruin everything by saying I love you. You're not, right? Not if you're at that point in the relationship. I think the phrase I love you gets obviously really charged in a relationship, and you want to be really careful with all sides of it. But you want to make sure that you're really in a place where you really care about the person you're telling it to. If you feel like things have been escalating, obviously, probably you want to be in a relationship pretty securely before you say I love you. And at that point that you've been in a relationship, it's kind of, there's no time that's right. Just feel it. When it feels right to you, go ahead and say it. If it does ruin everything, to be perfectly frank, they're probably not worth it. If you can't say I love you to someone and have them be okay with it, they're not into you enough for it to be, a valid relationship and for it to be worth it. If you really, really like her, if you love her even, and you're in a relationship, it's going really well, and you say it and she kind of freaks out, give it some time. Wait a day maybe, and then ask her, hey, I noticed that I said I love you and you kind of flipped out. What's going on? It's totally fine to do that and have a real conversation about it. Otherwise, again, the most important thing in a relationship is that the love and the trust and the liking is mutual. And if it's not, it's probably not going to be a really positive relationship for a really long time. And there is a time and a place to come to terms with that. Okay, that is the last question. That's all I have time for. It's been great talking to you guys today. You can definitely submit more questions if we do this again, especially in different genres. I'll give you guys a heads up as to that. So I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. And it's been a blast. Bye.